Kazakhstan?
Sixth time.
Sixth time, wow.
Yeah, I came here the first time just after independence. I did a seminar for a company, and the last time I came here was about 7 years ago. I came here with Mike Tyson, the boxer, and we did a big seminar here. So it's good. Kazakhstan is very different to other parts of Eastern Europe. It really is very different. Kazakhs are different to Russians, different to Ukrainians. They're certainly a lot wealthier now than they were when I first came here. The population has more than doubled since I first came. That's incredible, absolutely.
You are a true legend for us, and it's very interesting for me that many years ago, when you was young, you was insurance agent. You were the insurance agent and made huge sales about $1 million. That time you could buy 75 Mercedes-Benz S-Class of that time. Why did you decide to change your business?
That's a good question. My father was an insurance agent in the 1950s, and he was in rural Australia. And when he would go on appointments, he would often take me with him when I was 5 years old. Because if you've got a small child, they always invite you to come in. So I was like a sales tool. And so I learned communication with people, selling to people, why people do what they do. I learned this very early. So it was the natural progress for me to go into the world of sales and negotiation and insurance. And I was very, very successful in insurance. And in 1976, I wrote my first big seller, which I called Body Language. That was the first book that came out, and that went #1 worldwide. It went on into movies, into television. It was a big, big thing back in those days. Then I wrote 3 more #1 bestsellers, and so it got to the point where I had the insurance business here, which was, I loved it, but the book business and traveling the world was becoming a much bigger business. So I decided I'm going to make the change and switch into communication and teaching people how to be better as individuals and better in business.
How do you think people all over the globe in different countries, are they quite different or generally the same?
Well, generally, we're different in terms of behaviours. In body language, that's one of the first things I found, that what means something in a gesture in one country can mean something different in another. I've just been in Greece, for example. So in Kazakhstan, what does this mean to you?
I don't know, okay.
That's okay. It can mean zero. Zero, as in France, it can mean zero, but okay is currently the world's most. In northern Greece, it means a man is gay. They don't. Yeah, that's what they use it for. In Greece, to insult someone, you just do this, number 5, to their face. That means dirt in your face. It's very insulting. And so, in Greece, you say, "I love Greek people, and I'll see you at 5 o'clock." You just said, "I love Greek people. I'll see you at 5 o'clock." So gesturally, things were different. Even though with the new generation of young people that you see here at the New Vision Conference. And in the world, it's changing because the new generation, the say under 25s, all now have the same body language in every country because of American television and Hollywood. They're mimicking what they see. Video games are all made mostly in America by Americans or Japanese using the same gestures and behaviours. And so if you take some films, which I did, in remote Siberia of young children playing in the street, and you zoom it in and you turn the sound off so you can't hear the accent. Then you ask people in other countries, who are these children? Where are they from? Most people think they're Americans, but they're not. They're remote Siberians because they've been watching videos of American gestures and behaviours and they copy them. Like here in Kazakhstan, young men wearing their baseball bat backwards. That's not a Kazakh tradition. That's an American black tradition. So younger generations now are all having the same body language, and I predict within 2 generations, cultural differences will disappear with body language. The sad side of that is there's no cultural traditions in terms of behaviour. The positive side is that whatever culture somebody is dealing with, you'll be able to look at them and get a better understanding what they think and feel.
How do you think can artificial intelligence, AI, understand this body language, and can you teach, for example, some avatar, AI avatar, to act like people would?
Well, we're one of the big changes coming with AI. AI is certainly the biggest technological revolution in the history of humans. It's only brand new, but it's getting bigger and bigger. They now have a program that they've created that can read the body language of people. They put all the gestures in, so AI can read that person and give you a summary of what they think that person is thinking. That is, are they telling the truth? Are they lying? Now you think of the application of that in, say, the legal system in courts, when witnesses are giving evidence and an AI camera is watching them and giving a report about whether they're being honest or not. You know, when you're out on a date with the girl, you don't need to buy her roses and coffee. You just film her and see whether you're going okay.
It's like truth detector. You just put camera and camera reads.
Yeah, and it's only in its infancy, this body language reading, but very quickly, very soon, within the next few years, it will be very big.
And how did you spread your idea all over the globe?
Well, you know, in 1975, when I decided to write body language, and nobody had ever seen anything quite like it. And it was a manual for people who in sales and marketing had to deal face to face, to look at someone and understand if you mention a price, if it's too high, maybe they might cross their arms or they might lean back or they might cover their face. So it was a collection of observations that we knew worked. If somebody said, well, that price is very interesting, maybe they didn't like it. Whereas they leaned forward and they said, so what are the terms? Maybe they like it. And so originally it was a collection of observations, because when I wrote that first book, there were no computers, there was no AI, there was only libraries and observations. So it was a practical, hands-on thing that existed. And I wrote it into the book Body Language, and I can remember saying to my wife, well, you know, if this sold 10,000 copies, it would be fantastic. And then suddenly it got translated into other languages, into French and Italian, and it hit #1 everywhere. And then it went to Japan and went #1 in Japan. I thought, now Japan is so different to everybody else. And then in the Middle East, they were very different in behavior. But in the Middle East and Japan, they called it the body language of Westerners. They weren't understanding themselves. They wanted to understand us or people from other countries. So when you go there, they want to look at you and work you out. They weren't working themselves out. And so it's spread almost organically. I didn't have to go and get out there and sell it, even though I did. I mean, I couldn't get the book into New York. They said, no, it's some strange idea. That doesn't suit. One publisher said, body language doesn't suit Americans, only suits Australians. So I got on a plane and went to New York, and I walked up and down New York knocking on publishers' doors, because that's what I learned as a kid, to knock on doors and ask for the order. And we sold it to a big American publisher, and it went #1 in America. So it went #1 everywhere, then became a subject of television programs, History Channel, National Geographic. It went into every training course in the world. Today it's in every university. And you do any course involving people, you'll have a segment on understanding people through body language. So, and I find that here in Kazakhstan, that there are people here in their 40s and 50s, very successful people, who say to me, oh, when I was at university, at school, I read the book and it made a big difference to my business life. And I get that in every country in the world. It's very rewarding to think that had such an impact on people that I never met.
Yeah.
And in Kazakhstan, it's exactly the same. In fact, in Kazakhstan, it seems to, what I do is extremely well accepted and extremely popular. So that's why I like coming here.
And what's your favorite dishes? Come on, Kazakh.
You mean food?
I mean food.
Well, we went to a dinner last night, which was very interesting, with Kazakh dancing, Kazakh singing, Kazakh dishes. And I had for the first time camel milk and horse milk, which I never had. This is my 6th time to Kazakhstan, so I've tried all the food over the years, and that's very different but very good. The camel milk and horse milk, in fact, I hadn't even heard of that. And so I found that very interesting to do that. But this is what you do when you go to any culture. You try everything in that culture to see what it's like. And it was very, very good.
It's good. You have such a huge energy. Where do you take it?
Well, a couple of things. First, I love what I'm doing. When you love what you're doing, you don't work. So when I wake up every day, like this morning, I wake up going, wow, today I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go to a seminar, there's going to be a whole bunch of people again. If you love what you're doing, you'll get energy from that. Now, I'm a vegetarian, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't suffer stress. So if there's any stress, I either walk away from it, or I pull myself out of it, or I talk myself out of it. So that way I can live a long time. So at 47 years of age, they said I would probably only live another 3 years. I had terminal cancer. And I decided to change my life to be able to live to be maybe, I think I could maybe make 100. They said I'd live 3 years. I'm 73 now. Yeah. And they're still telling me 3 years. I said, well, but that means of 100 men my age and my condition, on average, those guys like me will die in 3 years. It means one dies in 1 year, another one dies in 5 years. So I'm going to live to a minimum of age 90, 15th of August 2040, minimum. I won't die that day, but I'll be in perfect health until then, and then I'll decide what my next goal is. And I have that date tattooed right here on my ass. You don't believe me, do you? Have you seen it?
No.
Yeah, I got a tattoo right here. I'm not suggesting people get tattoos, but I did because I kept losing my date all the time. A bit of paper kept disappearing. So every time when I get in the shower, like this morning, I see it there. And it tells me how I will eat today, how I will drink, what I will think, what my attitude will be, and I'll avoid stress. So it's a daily reminder of what I will do. That way I can live this long, and being an organic vegetarian, and I go to the gym 6 days a week. At the moment, I'm not, because one of my goals was I was swinging through the trees like Tarzan in a rainforest 2 months ago, and I've missed and hit the ground and I broke my hip and damaged my knees. So I'm repairing, but once I'm repaired, other than that, I'm in pretty good condition for my age, because most men in Western society who are born in my year, the majority of those are dead. Yeah. And I'm not, and I won't be.
You'll see.
Well, someone said the other day, well, what if you're wrong? I said, well, then I'll be dead. What sort of question is that? Yeah, I will be dead. But look, I think the secret is if you live well, you eat healthily, and you decide that you're going to wake up to an occupation, career, something that you love, that you want to do. And you love doing this. I can see it in your face. You like doing this. You like interviewing people. It's giving you jollies. I know it is. Do you do it full time? Is this your full time job?
No, not full time.
Yeah, but if you could do it full time and get paid for it, it'd be great, right? It'd be fabulous. So? That's the goal. So if you love what you're doing and love what you want, it's not work. It's not a job, and you have the energy. Yeah. You want to go and do those things.
Because talking to such people like you, talking to you, it's great success.
Yeah, I love it too, because I come to conferences like this where you have a lot of very successful people and business, and a lot of famous people. So I get to meet all them on stage. And I, like a journalist, I love it. I get them in the corner, ask them, how did you become so successful? So I'm like my own journalist.
What is your advice to young people who want to be world famous, or maybe spread the idea all over the world? What should they do first?
Yeah, well, I wrote a book about that. My latest book, called The Answer, is about exactly that, and it's a study of parts of the brain. My last 4 books have been about how the brain impacts behaviour, and my advice is simple, that most people in the world who are raised, younger people especially, they sit around thinking about how would I become successful, how would I become famous, how would I become chief of my own business, how would I become a millionaire, or whatever they want to do. And if you start by thinking about how, nothing ever happens. Nothing happens. So my advice is, don't think about how. Think about what you will have, what you will do, what you will become. Do not think about how. If you think about how, it's all over. It's just, you get depressed, you don't know how, and so you go back to your normal life. Think about what you'll have, do, and become, which sounds simple, but it's a really difficult thing to do that. So I will become chief of my own business in a business in Kazakhstan that turns over $20 million a year, or whatever it is you want. I will become a Buddhist priest in Nepal, whatever's important to you. Now, if you start by saying, yeah, but how would I get the money? How would I do that? Then it's finished. You decide what, and suddenly the part of the brain back here called the RAS will search the environment and you'll see the answers. So you drive a car?
Yeah.
What sort of car you drive?
Honda. Yeah.
Honda, is it what, 4-door?
A crossover.
A crossover. Yeah, how long you had it?
2 years.
You like it?
Yeah.
Okay, as soon as you drove that car away from when you bought it, suddenly you saw your car everywhere. Everybody driving your car. Everywhere you go, there's a crossover there, there's a crossover there, there's a crossover in the garage. You go to the airport, there's a crossover. Avis has got it for rent. You're watching TV, the getaway car, there's a crossover. True? Yeah. That's because in that part of your brain, you have put the what. The what is a crossover. That's why you see it everywhere. Look, I've been in Kazakhstan for a couple of days. I haven't seen a crossover. But I know there must be hundreds of them out, but I didn't see one because it's not in my RAS. I didn't see one. It's in yours, so you see them everywhere. This is the secret. When you decide the what, and you put it into this part of the brain, you will see the how. But most people start with how. How would I do this? How would I get the money? How would I travel to Australia and go on vacation? How would I become chief of my own business? How would I marry the perfect person? They start with how. And how is the end of it. Think about what? This is what I will do. I will do this. And people say, but how will you do that? Your answer is, I don't know, but that's what I'll do. Yeah, but how? How will you do this? Your answer is, I don't know, but that's what I'll do. And if people keep saying, how will you do it? Don't tell them anymore. And the worst offenders are your family members. I go, oh, come on, you want to be a journalist full time? Come on, how are you? You've got kids, you've got to pay the rent, you've got to pay the food. How will you do this? Stop telling them. Because what they're saying is, I don't know how I do it, so how would you do it? I need to tell people what you want to do, who have done what you want to do, who are currently doing it successfully. You tell them, because they'll show you how to do it. They know. But people who don't will just say, how? And you get enough people telling you how, after a while you go, maybe it's not such a good idea, and you give it up. Now, 85% of people who work in jobs in the Western and Eastern world, 85% don't like their job. They don't want to do that. They wake up every day going, oh, here I go again. And they get up and they get dressed and they go and do something they don't want to do. Now, if you're doing that, and that's probably most people who are watching what we're talking about now, you've got to get out of that. You're in the wrong job. It doesn't mean you go and quit today, because you've still got to pay the rent, you've still got to pay the food. But decide what it is you really want to do, the what. Don't think about how, just say, this is what I will do. And then you'll see the how, then you put a deadline on it and you go and do that. And that's what successful people do. They decide what they want. They don't start with how.
But we're scared. It's very scary.
It is scary. It sounds simple, but it's scary. But
how can we struggle with
But
this?
I mean, being an average normal person doing the same thing every day when you don't like it, that's got to be scarier.
No.
You know, goals must scare you. If your goals don't scare you, it's not worth it. They've got to scare you just enough where you go, whoa, you're going to do this. Yeah, not so much that you're immobilised, but just enough to go, I'm going to climb that mountain.
So
I don't know what's up there, but I'm going to do it.
We should turn our scare to motivation.
Yeah, well, it gives you motivation to go and it drives you. And the goals have got to be out of reach, but not out of sight. They've got to scare you. If they don't scare you, not worth it.
Yeah. Good, great. And what advice could you do now to you, for example, 20 years, when you was 20 years old?
When I was 20 years old?
To yourself.
Well, the difference between now, I'm 73 now, and when I was 20 years old, when I was 20 years old, I lived in a small village, 800 people, in the seaside in southern Australia. And it was a very poor town. We lived with state housing. The government provided the houses and you paid a cheap rent on it. And I did many of the things I'm talking about now. I did it then without understanding the brain function. We never had computers or anything like that to let us see. So I decided when I was 19 that by the time I got to age 30, I would be a millionaire. Now, I had no idea what that meant. I'd never seen a millionaire. In my little town, we didn't have any millionaires, but I watched the television, and the TV had all these TV shows. How to Marry a Millionaire, The Millionaire in My Life. All these beautiful women were chasing this guy who's a millionaire. So I thought, I'm going to be a millionaire. Well, I want those beautiful women to chase me. So I had no idea what to do. If I had $1 million, I wouldn't know what to do with it. But if I had beautiful women, I certainly knew what to do with them. So that was my motivation, was I decided that's what I'm going to do. And I can remember some of my friends in the little town saying, well, how are you going to do that? I mean, we're living here. How would you do this? And I said, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, but Alan, how can you possibly do that? I said, I don't know, but that's what I will do. This is how definite you have to be about what it is. And if they kept saying how, I just didn't tell them anymore. And with family members, they're the worst. And they're scared you might hurt yourself or lose your money or get in a bad relationship, which is really their own fears. That's not your fears, that's their fears.
They think about you.
Yeah, well,
they want to prevent your mistakes.
They want to protect you, or they're scared for themselves in case they did it. They think, well, if I did it, I might lose my money, so they're scared for you. That's what happens. But the only people who can really advise you are the people who are doing what you want to do, who have done it. They know what happens. Those who haven't can only give you their opinion of what would happen to them. And so it doesn't mean you don't love family members. You still love them. Just don't tell them. Just decide, this is what I'm going to do, and only tell people who will support you. And it's like when I got diagnosed with cancer at age 47, I had 19 opinions, medical opinions. I paid a lot of money to get 19 opinions. And they all said the same thing. You're going to die in 3 years on average. So I fired all those doctors, because they wouldn't support me. And I found someone who said, oh, look, maybe if you do this, you could do 5 years or 6 years. And I remember when I had surgery to cut out the cancer, which was a waste of time because it had already spread to other parts of my body. And this doctor came in, I was high on morphine, painkillers. I've never taken drugs, but I would be a great drug addict, I really would. I take drugs like a champion. So I'm laying there and I said, well, what's the verdict, doctor? He said, well, we take 100 men your age with your cancer, your condition. Here's what we expect will happen. In the next year, about 20% will die, and the next year maybe 50%, and most of the rest will die by the 3rd year. That's an average. I said, well, does anybody live? It was a changing point in my life. And I said, does anybody survive? He said, well, about 3% of men like you will live to be 80 and have a heart attack. And I thought about that for a moment. I said, okay, well, I'll choose the 3% group. Give me the 3% group, please. How do I join the 3% group? And he looked at me like I was crazy. He said, no, you don't join a group. This is a medical statistic of 100 men your age in your condition. What's happened in the past, we expect this will happen in the future. He said, yeah, but those 3%, they did something, thought something, ate something. They did something to be 80 and have a heart attack. And I realised that the medical profession didn't understand the question. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But to me, it made sense. There's a little guy from a little country town. There's 3 out of 100 guys survive. I want to find out what they did. So I spent a year finding the 3 of 100 survivors and found out what they did, and I designed a life plan to live like that, which involves organic vegetarian, no chemicals, no pesticides. I don't drink alcohol. I don't suffer stress. I don't smoke. I don't do any of the things that the 97% did that died. And now I'm 73 and I'll live to be a minimum of 90, even though they keep telling me, look, 3 months ago before I came to Kazakhstan, the medical doctor said, oh look, on average, guys like you live about 3 years. But that's 100 guys my age and my condition. Doesn't mean me, it doesn't mean you. I mean, why can't you join the 3% group? Why can't anybody be in the 3%? To get in it, you've got to decide that's what I do. But most people don't do that. What most people do is they go, oh, the doctor said it'll only last 3 years, and everybody's had a family member who's been told this. Maybe your grandmother or someone has been told by experts, oh, you won't survive until Christmas. And inevitably, she's dead by Christmas because she sets a goal. She plans to die at Christmas. So if somebody says to me, you'll be dead by Christmas, I say, you're fired. I don't want to hear that again.
My older grandmother told him, I want to see my grandson go into school. I want to marry this grandson.
Yes.
She put goals and moved to these goals, and she lived up to 98.
And that's exactly what you do. You set goals. I want to do this. I want to do that. And we know that in the Jewish community, for example, the greatest day of Jewish men dying, most Jewish men die, is the day after Yom Kippur, the Jewish holiday. They want to live to Yom Kippur, to be with their family and celebrate. And they do that, and because they've set no more goals, next day...
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. One more question about New Vision Forum. How did you like our forum? What should we improve next time?
I think the New Vision. Well, I think the New Vision Forum is a fantastic thing. It's the first time I've done this. It's big. What surprises me is the number of young people who've come to this forum to learn. I first came to Kazakhstan nearly 30 years ago when independence was declared. It was a very different place to what it is today. Things that you would learn in New Vision, nobody had ever seen anything like that. And so this is the first, they're thinking of making this an annual event. And they've got 60 speakers who are all experts in their field and some really famous people as well. They've got Richard Branson, for example. And younger people and older people, but young people being exposed to this sort of information is a big deal. And these younger people are the ones who will be running Kazakhstan in the future. And it broadens their perspectives, gives them a wider perspective and better people skills, better business skills. And I think that's why Kazakhstan is going ahead so fast, certainly compared to other nations in the region. Because and this New Vision thing, I think, is a game changer in many ways. And I go to these type of conferences all over the world, and this one is as good or better than most I've seen anywhere. Very good.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
One more question. I have your book,
Uh-huh.
Please sign it.
Which book's this?
It's about body.
Oh, this is a body language.
It's body language.
Yeah.
It's in Russian, but
Yeah.
yes,
It's a Russian version. Okay.
it's a Russian version. Yeah.
Who am I signing it for?
No, Marat. My name is Marat.
How do I spell that?
Marat.
Right.
Wow, great.
Cool.
Now I have it. I'm very happy. Thank you very much. Thank you for your
My
time.
pleasure, Marat. Great to meet you too.